Hi.
Short Bus Debate Club. It's a bus rolling.
I can get on board. Hello, I'm Darren Jolly.
It's time to get this short bus started. So let's roll and on with the show. Hello, everyone. This is Brian Courtney, and I would like to welcome you to Short Bus Debate Club. Darren Jolly is across the table from me, as always.
I am.
So we are talking about the entertainment part of vigilantes and vigilanteism. So in that spirit, I would like to start off with, well, a story, a song and a story.
I have no fucking idea what he's talking about right now.
That really fucked me up. Hold on. Okay. Somewhere in the Black Mountain Hills of Dakota, there lived a young boy named Rocky Racoon. One day his woman ran off with another guy. Hit young Rocky in the eye. Rocky didn't like that. He said, I'm going to get that boy. So the way the rest of the story goes is Rocky goes. He books himself a room at the local saloon. His ex, whose name was McGill.
She called herself Lil.
But everyone knew her as Nancy. She was in the next room with Dan at the hoedown. So Rocky, equipped with a gun, busts in. Dan is faster, so he drew first and shot. Rocky goes back
in the corner.
Yeah, he goes back to his room with the doctor. He says, Doc, it's just a scratch.
Match. Rocky says, Doc, it's only a scratch.
I'll be better. Doc, as soon as I am able. Okay, so
I didn't know that we were going to start with the White Album. That's good, though.
No, I kind of thought about it earlier today because I entitled the last two episodes Rocky Racoon, Vigilante, Revenge Seeker, or Victim. And I thought it kind of matches what we were talking about, the fact that we don't really know the fucking definition because, Dan hits him in the eye. Rocky didn't like that, so he gets a gun and he goes after him.
He said, I'm going to get that boy.
Right. So
really
that
a wonderful song and a great album to boot.
Dude, like I heard that song, I don't even remember what radio station, but I was fucking high as hell. And that song came on. At the time I didn't have a car, and Roger walked in and I was like, dude, there's this song by the Beatles and it goes Rocky Racoon, and I was singing just like a stoner.
Yeah.
And he started laughing his ass off, but he had to drive me around the rest of the day until I found the White Album.
Incidentally, every time I've seen Brian sing at karaoke, he always sings fucking Rocky Racoon. Don't you?
It's a terrific song. Yeah. Well, and the words are fairly simple. I sing that or Bad to the Bone.
Why Bad to the Bone?
Because the words are easy.
Because you like to go into a microphone.
Well, no, I kind of like the lyrics too. I make a rich woman beg.
Dude, let's just stick with fucking vigilanteism.
Okay, so I've been kind of racking my brains trying to think of another song that had to do. Go ahead.
I have one. Pumped Up Kicks. Pump Up the Kicks, the one where I can't even play it on here. I mean, if I can hear the words, I can. It's a total pop song. All the other kids with the pumped up, better run, outgun my trigger. It's about a school shooting, right?
Okay.
So I mean, but it was a pop song. I mean, which you can't get much more dark than to create a pop song about a school shooting. And look. Again, like I said, I'm not going to say it again, but I'll say it one time in each episode. We're not condoning these acts. We are understanding these acts as something that is sort of like the activity comes from. So like one of the movies that I watched for this episode was Falling Down, right? Falling Down is not a happy fucking movie, not by any stretch of the imagination. Michael Douglas, you never actually he's simultaneously both. He's really the antagonist, but it follows the antagonist move, and Robert Duvall's the protagonist because he's sort of the legal voice of reason. But um, he doesn't have a name. Michael Douglas doesn't have a name. The only thing that identifies him is his license plate at the beginning of the
Angry Man or some shit.
defense.
Oh,
And
okay.
he works as a scientist for defense contractor. And you find out much later on into the movie that he had been fired a month before. He's stuck in traffic in L.A. And I mean, it's just fucking gridlock on top of gridlock on top of gridlock. It's actually funny. Like, um, I had been listening to a lot of the Foo Fighters lately, and because of that, like their videos will come up, in my queue when I'm listening to YouTube. But there's this song called "Walk" where uh, what's the Nirvana guy from in the Foo Fighters, the lead singer's name? What's his name?
Dave Grohl.
Dave Grohl. He's standing there. He's in the car and he jumps out of the car and just walks away. I did not realize that is a direct reference to what happens with Michael Douglas.
It was a Falling Down
reference. It's
really?
exactly, yeah. If you watch the beginning of and then watch the beginning of Falling Down when Michael Douglas gets out, somebody's like, what are you doing? And he says, I'm going home. So throughout this show, throughout the movie, he just has these chance encounters that uh, become conflicts, like crazy conflicts. So it starts like he's he walks away, leaves his car. He ends up going to this corner store. He wants to call his ex-wife because it's his daughter's birthday that day, and he calls once and he just like sits there and just doesn't say anything until finally his ex-wife hangs up the phone. Um, they've been estranged because he's a little bit of a kook, and she had kind of figured this out. Um, and he doesn't really have any uh, stable relationship with his daughter at all. Um, so he goes into this corner store that's owned by a Korean guy, um, and he asks for change. He says, "You got to buy something to get change." So he goes and gets a soda. It's hotter than hell outside. He's putting this Coke on his head to kind of cool him off. He takes it up to the counter and he says 85 cents. The Korean guy says 85 cents in his broken English, because this is sort of something that he is this very traditional. Uh, Maybe he's educated only in the sense that um, that he works for a defense contractor, but he's not very socially intelligent, right? And that was very common, I think, in the 90s, especially in LA. Things were ghettoed out, and people lived in their own communities. When they ran into people that weren't like them, they tended to, I mean, there were a lot of inflammatory things that came out in that time period.
Well, I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but I thought I remember him like not being a blatant racist, but like complaining about these people taking jobs and that's why he lost his job, and complaining. I mean, because they still make those fucking stupid arguments today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think, and I could, am I
Well,
wrong?
no, no. Well, so it wasn't the job so much in that certain scene, but yes,
Right.
he is acting racist. Michael Douglas is. You should learn how to speak my language if you're going to live here. You know how much money my country gave to your money, and the Korean guy goes, how much? And Michael Douglas, I don't know, but I know it was a lot. I mean, so that just like this totally, like he wants to act out this anger, but he only is trying to get enough change so that he can make this call, and he's totally belligerent and irrational. So the Korean guy grabs a baseball bat, and Michael Douglas takes it away from him, and then starts smashing everything inside the store because he's like saying, "You marked this up too much." He leaves, then he runs into some Latino gang members. He beats the fuck out of them. They go get a bunch of guns and come and try to shoot him down. Uh, they do a drive-by and rather incompetently shoot everyone around him and don't shoot him. He goes over. They end up running into a car and rolling the car over. 3 people are dead in the car. One's still alive. Uh, takes the gun from off the ground and is like, dude, you guys weren't very good at the drive-by thing. You missed. But I mean, it just continues. He shoots one of them in the leg, and it just continues to steamroll. He ends up in the restaurant, which is a fucking goofy ass hilarious moment.
Wasn't there a pawn shop too?
So it's not a pawn shop. And this is the only part where he really he killed anybody and very intentionally killed somebody. He goes into an army surplus store, and
That's
that guy's
right.
a hyper fucking racist. And
Yeah.
he's got all this Nazi garb in the back. The cop comes into the place, and uh, the the army surplus guy thinks that Michael Douglas is on his side. Uh, that turns out not to be the case, and Michael Douglas proceeds to kill this a guy who probably, in my estimation, like the only moment of like rational vigilanteism is when he kills the Nazi guy, right?
I think it's hysterical that he killed the Nazi guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason that I say that is because I can see, and I know people like that, where they're racist by saying, learn to speak my language, or what the fuck are you doing in my country, or whatever.
But then he goes and.
But he kills this guy for being a racist, which is just.
Well, it wasn't just that. I mean, he starts to put the handcuffs on him. He really was threatening Michael Douglas's life very overtly in a similar way to the Chicano Latino gang members. So I keep smacking the table. I'm sorry. I'll stop smacking the table.
No.
But you're right. He's a hypocrite. I mean, and that is definitely a theme that goes on through this whole movie until he finally ends up getting to where his wife and his daughter are at, and Robert Duvall sort of figured out everything that goes on and gets there and pops a cap in Michael Douglas's ass. And this is not a romantic image of vigilantism, the way that it plays out. And I like the sort of like honesty of, like when I said in the last episode, socially constipated. I mean, Michael Douglas is the perfect example. He's not intelligent. He doesn't try to become intelligent. He's had some things happen to him that are beyond his. He keeps saying, I did all these things right. I did what I was told to do, and I basically have been lied to is sort of like the conclusion that he ends up coming to. But he just goes totally fucking haywire in the face of that.
I've always said that, like, this entire idea that we're not to blame for anything, it wasn't my fault, I didn't do it, it was this and this and this. Mm-hmm. I always said that it started with Gen X, which I'm a part of, mm-hmm. But Michael Douglas is not part of Gen X. And so I guess some of that had to be passed from the baby boomers in order for it to be as sticky as it was with the Gen X crew. Because they just irritate the shit out of me. And when I say they, I mean, like, I don't know, 95% of the Gen X population is like, I didn't do it, it wasn't me. Well, you're the only fucking one here.
And we'll get more on this, but you walked in and I was watching one of my favorite vigilante movies tonight in Gran Torino, and the daughter, his granddaughter, like they're at the wake of their grandmother's. She had just passed away, and everybody's just irritated at Walt. Clint Eastwood, at his presence, and because he's an old fucking curmudgeon, and he is an old fucking curmudgeon. But he has some interesting qualities if you get past that space. And she, as soon as she realizes that he's got a perfect condition 1972 Gran Torino, after her parents asked her to help him get some chairs out of the basement, and everything that they had asked her to do, she seemed irritated about, as if like being a part of a community, a part of a family, and engaging in familial acts is an irritation. Like, I don't want to over romanticize the nuclear family or the social, spaces, but if you want to have a relationship with the people that you have a family with, you break bread with them. You when you have gatherings, when one of them's died, you do things to try to help to comfort that person. And while Walt, as an individual, obviously was not an easy person to try to comfort, if you love them, you make that effort. You try to find a way to do that. But until she found a a reward in it, and she asks for his fucking your retro couch, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
what a cunt, you know? I mean, and if we don't, you have to find your own answers and create your own answers in a certain moment. You cannot just say that the world is evil and big and I'm a fucking victim of every single thing that happens.
But a lot of that was her. I mean, so I think this is where you were going, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. I mean, so her parents were Gen X parents.
Yeah.
And
Total pieces of shit.
They just went on and passed on all of the shit. Like, okay, so I understand, you know, parents want to make things better than what they had it. But I think that there should be some limitation or some kind of fucking rule as to what you do. Like, that doesn't mean give them everything and don't make them responsible for anything, because that makes a bunch of fucking worthless cocksucking kids.
Not that there's anything wrong with people who like cocksucking.
But there should be something. I mean, you know, the
struggle is a good thing. Struggle does help to build character, regardless. If everything's handed to you, if you do not suffer, you know, I'm very stoic and very Buddhist about these kinds of things. Sometimes life needs to be painful. It needs to be difficult, and there's a value in, you know, like you don't like fucking lima beans, well, don't eat fucking food for 3 days. Then you're gonna fucking, you know, or find a way where you have to, you know, get your own food, create your own food, and then maybe you're going to have a little bit of a different sense of value. And if anybody thinks that that's a conservative disposition, anybody that identifies what I just said is an anti-leftist disposition, I like I said many times, I'm a Marxist, but I never want to be identified with a leftist position that thinks that everything should be handed to you. That is just fucking ridiculous. It's not distributive, it's qualitative. All right. We'll talk about Gran Torino more later. So the Gen Xers, yeah.
We could talk about it now if you want.
Well, I kind of didn't want to, because
that's your closer again.
Well, I mean, okay, so we'll just sort of let this happen the way that it's like more organically, and I won't like overthink it. Like in the last episode or 2 episodes, I was very, you know, I was talked a lot about subjectivity. I talked a lot about how we'd have a difficulty creating a legal disposition because people's acts of vigilantism are rooted, you know, like that Kyle Rittenhouse. I mean, he thought that what he was doing was appropriate, and he was clearly doing something extra legally. You know, I don't see what he did as vigilantism at all, but there is a whole demographic of people that would agree with the way that he committed the acts that he did from that vigilante position.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, it was fucking, for all intents and purposes, it was first degree murder. It was fucking planned. It was planned so much that he drove from fucking Chicago to another fucking state.
Yeah, like he was looking for trouble. I mean, and if as a leftist, if I did anything like that, there's little doubt that I would spend the rest of my life in prison for sure.
Well, I mean, dude, it's one thing if you drive up there and say, you know what, we're gonna go to Kenosha because we want to help these business owners protect their business from all of these rowdy Black Lives Matter people. So we're gonna go up there and help protect the business. That's one thing. Because if you go in numbers, you know, then you can make like a human blockade or whatever to, you know, maybe stop windows from being broken or people going into the store and looting, whatever.
Mm-hmm. But then you're doing a bunch of good faith acts before you shoot somebody.
Well, no, I'm saying it's an entirely different thing to fucking throw a clip in your fucking gun and say, I'm going to Kenosha to help those people protect their shit. That's premeditated.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes and no. I mean, but I think that, like, to be fair, like, if he went up there and he committed, so like one of the things that he used in his defense was that he didn't he say he had first aid stuff or something like that. He was going to help people that got injured. Like if I saw him going and helping, like if there was some footage of him going and helping some people, you know, that had gotten, you know, tear gassed or got a knife, got cut, if there was something like that, like you said, or you get in front of somebody's building when they're trying to go and loot it, and you sort of like are like, no, you're not going to do this, like a good faith act. But he was a motherfucker walking up the middle of the road. Like I don't want to say that it's premeditated just because he went up there and said that. Like if he went up there and said that and did some other things, then that would be honest. But because he went up there and was in the fucking middle of the road walking around with a fucking gun the way that he was, then I agree with you. It is a premeditated. It's at the very least second degree, but probably should be considered first degree murder at that point. But it depends on what he was doing.
Yeah, I clearly don't know the answer.
Mhm.
I mean, because, dude, if I would have been the judge, I probably would have fucking excused the jury, and I would have fucking laid down a verdict on my own because the jury had to have been prejudiced. I mean,
That's gonna get appealed like in 15 seconds.
maybe.
Yeah, but it's a political case anyway, so why not make a political act? Is that your?
No, my point is that, well, if I tell him he's guilty
Uh-huh.
and then I say sentencing will be next week and I sentence him to fucking 20 to life in Kenosha State
Wisconsin
Prison.
State Prison. Yeah.
Well, no, I said Kenosha on purpose, but
Oh.
yeah, I know it's in Wisconsin.
Sorry, little buddy.
I sentence him to prison, then he goes to prison, and at the very minimum, he's probably gonna learn a valuable fucking lesson about.
Even if he gets out on an appeal,
Right.
Because he has to deal with some measure of consequences.
Yeah.
I like that. I don't hate that. I mean, and I don't hate it because of what I said. Like it was a show trial anyway. So why not make a political act out of it
But maybe
as
what I
judge?
said would make me, as a judge, a vigilante.
Oh, the irony of that is beautiful. A vigilante judge. I mean, that's fucking awesome. Like when you construct paradox in moments like that, that's true dialectical movement. Where you make the thing stand on its own head because you become the anti-thing in relation to the thing itself. I fucking like that. That's good. Brian, the vigilante judge.
We've come a long way from the duster and the shotgun. Okay, so should we go back to movies or?
Well, I mean, you want to the Gran Torino one. So the big difference between a Gran Torino and a Falling Down is that Falling Down, he's a vigilante that's the crystallization of someone who's just fucking lost their fucking connection to reality. And Walt, everything that he does, I mean, he's clearly the Jesus character. He sacrifices his own life, and so beautiful because he's clearly right wing. He's always voting. I bet you he doesn't even look at the name. He voted Republican and everything from beginning to ending of his life. But when he got to know that Hmong family, when he got to know that crazy ass grandma that spit in grandma next door, um, when Toad and him developed their relationship, and Toad sort of learned how to be who he was as himself by himself with Walt, with um, he fucking he knew the only way that he was gonna stop that Hmong gang from coming after, especially after they raped Sue's sister.
Sue.
The only way he needed to get them locked away. He needed to remove them from the equation, or else they were never going to leave that family alone. I mean, and he fucking goes. He locks Toad, Tao in the basement. It goes over there and provokes them to kill him. I mean, like I was telling you earlier, like I went to go see that with Frank and Homeboy. Like I had not seen anything about the fucking movie. I mean, Clint Eastwood sometimes is sort of a hit or miss one for me. I don't remember the last time before that I laughed out loud so fucking hard. And you could never make that movie today. You never could. All the fucking shit that he says. I mean, because he is the most racist motherfucker on the face of the earth. But and this is something that all you fucking wokies out there, sitting on Twitter, fucking steamrolling anybody that doesn't use a word absolutely perfectly all the time. you miss in this moment where sometimes in those internal contradictions, some real human spaces like develop out of them that would not have been there before, and they develop organically, not by fucking standing in front of somebody and painting a fucking you know a scarlet letter on their forehead.
So I love the movie. I've watched it, I don't know, over and over and over again. I would say with regard to him being a racist, I think he's different than the Douglas racist because I think Douglas has been around some of those people because of where he lives or where he lived after the divorce. And this is all speculation on my part. I don't know, where he lived. Maybe it was all white
in his
people.
mom's house. Remember?
No, I haven't
Okay.
seen it since fucking 95 or whatever, dude.
He moved back into his childhood room with his mom.
Okay. So maybe that neighborhood had changed. I don't know. But what I'm getting at is that racism, for the most part, it's kind of like why a kid is afraid of the dark. You have that fear of what you don't know or what you don't understand. And so that's for the most part what racism is. There's some other stuff that's built in and around it, but that's at the fucking core of what racism is. It's a lack of understanding.
Like a rational fear rooted in ignorance, or
yes. Okay. So Clint Eastwood is a racist, and he's telling Mexican jokes and black jokes, and he hates the fact that he lives in this fucking neighborhood with all these Hmong. And he tells Sue, "Why don't you fucking go live with the other Hmongs? Why did you come here to begin with?" But the minute that he starts, because he hated Tao, but Sue wouldn't give up, and she kept not extending an olive branch, but she kept saying, "Hey, hey, 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 talk to us, talk to us, talk to us. We're not so fucking bad.
Cute, like in the way that she
come over here and have some food, whatever." So the minute that he started to hang around them, that lack of understanding started to disappear. And now it wasn't the Hmong he hated, it was the Hmong gang that was fucking with his entire neighborhood. I mean, it wasn't just Sue and the grandmother and the mom, and Tao, it was the people across the street. I mean, they were terrorizing the neighborhood. So it was the Hmong gang. Now they're fucking with, he never said it, but I mean, they were his people at that point.
When Tao started going and fixing all those houses, and he started to have those organic connections to all of them. Yeah. He became. They were his people. Yes, they were his people at that point in time, and he was theirs as well. Yeah.
And he wanted to protect all of them. So, and that's where you and I probably disagree, is that you said he sacrificed himself, when the reality is he was getting ready to die anyway. So I think he figured, fuck it.
It's a good way to go. No, I don't think there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm coughing up blood. I'm gonna hopefully do something that'll put these kids in prison for the rest of their life so they can't fuck with everybody. So then I don't have to die miserable anyway, right? I'm gonna let them fucking shoot me or whatever.
It's a good use of a death. I mean, for
yeah.
Sure. That's. I don't think that sacrifice thing. I don't think that's I don't think those things are natural necessarily. I think those both can be true at the same time.
I know. I just always think of sacrifice like, I don't know. You've got more. Like there's more road behind you or ahead of you than there is behind you, type of thing. And his road was coming to a fucking dead end.
Let's get to understand the legal definition of sacrifice, right?
That isn't what I was saying, dickhead.
Oh, yes, it was, motherfucker. You and your fucking words.
Words are important. Yeah, I mean, Clint Eastwood, I think All of his fucking movies are brilliant.
Sometimes some are better than others. This one was particularly fucking awesome though. It
So
was beautiful.
since we're talking about Clint Eastwood, I wasn't even going to talk about this movie, but
You gotta reach back, way back.
way back to, I don't know, 91, 92, The Unforgiven.
Is there Vigilant? I was thinking Dirty Harry or something like that. So
No, so I guess depending on how you look at it, it could be Vigilantes in a couple of different ways. So first off, he and Morgan Freeman and this other kid who I can't remember his fucking name are going to this little town in Wyoming to kill these two cowboys. And when I say cowboys, I mean people who work with cattle, not the gang. They're going to kill two cowboys that had cut up a whore. And it was so funny because during this story, everybody that told it, it got a little worse. You know, they cut up her face. And then the next one, they cut up her face. They cut her up her stomach. They even cut her teats, is what one of them said. And it just kept getting, it was like that telephone game.
Yeah.
So that would be the first part is they go, because they do go and they kill these two cowboys. Well, in the process, Morgan Freeman says, I can't do it. I'm not that guy anymore. And so he backs off, and it's just Clint Eastwood and the kid that kill the two. Well, Morgan Freeman is riding back to the house in Kansas when the posse catches him. And so Clint Eastwood finds out that they killed Morgan Freeman. And he flips his shit. I mean, so he was his character was William Money. He was infamous because he had dynamited the railway and done all of this shit. So he was not only a bank and train robber, but he was just a cold-blooded killer. So the posse and Gene Hackman as the sheriff. Gene Hackman is torturing Morgan Freeman to get him to give up the names of the other two, the kid and Clint Eastwood. Well, when Clint Eastwood finds out, he goes back into town and he walks in the bar, and they've got Morgan Freeman, who's now dead, in a coffin propped up in front of the saloon.
They're making a spectacle of him. Basically.
And it says, this is what happens to killers in this town. So Clint Eastwood walks into the bar and he says, who's the owner of this establishment? And the saloon owner comes up. He says, it's me. And he goes, boom, and fucking shoots him. And he goes, you coward. Gene Hackman says, you coward, you just shot an unarmed man. And he said, well, he should have armed himself if he was going to decorate his place with my dead friend. So, depending on how you look at it, you know, because they weren't law. They were going after the reward that these other sex workers had put up to get the guys that cut up the girl.
And they put that together. That's interesting.
And then he went and killed Gene Hackman and the entire fucking posse and the bar owner just because of what they did to Morgan Freeman. So it's got a couple layers of vigilantism in it.
That was a trend for that time period. I mean, to be sure,
like in the Wild West, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, what's Tombstone? I mean, there was that there was clear, you know, and Wyatt Earp's background, you know, and Doc Holliday especially, because Doc Holliday never he did not ever play the deputize me space. I mean,
he was mostly just a gambler and a gunfighter.
That's what I'm saying,
he was a quick draw.
When he did it, though, he crossed spaces. I mean, it wasn't just for justice was applicable in relation to how he related to Wyatt Earp, but sometimes it was just to shut some dumb kid up, you know.
Yeah,
needed to be shut up. So
he always talked shit about justice. I mean, I don't know for sure. I can't say always. But in the movie Tombstone, he did. But he also just, I mean, he tried to goat people on and get them to draw on him so that he could shoot them.
And William H. Bonney was, like we talked about in the past, he was going against the Santa Fe ring, which had basically used legal. I mean, that's why it had to exist back then. Like you almost needed at a time period when the state becomes so repressive, where people utilize or co-opt or capture the state's capabilities, and because, like I said in the last episode, the state is supposed to be the sole actor that's got the legitimate use of violence. When it oversteps a boundary where it's abusing that right, then sometimes you have to have extra legal actors come in and vigilanteize the circumstances, like all of those people whom we we worship in our history.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you with regard to Billy the Kid. But the only, and maybe you did this on purpose, but I mean, our government now is oppressive, and our government now is taking advantage of a lot of different things, from helping out their fucking buddies in banking and everything else. So, I mean, we have the equivalent of a Santa Fe ring now, just with one fucking farm company. I mean, JB Swift or JBS, depending on how you look at it, headquartered up in Greeley, is a huge fucking multinational corporation that deals mainly in beef, but they do, some lamb and some chicken, pork. But I mean, if you buy some shit at King Supers or Kroger, HEB, wherever you are, you're probably buying a JBS or JBS product. So, and then, I mean, fuck McDonald's and everybody else. So take heed with what Darren just said.
But I'm not telling you to go out and so like, and this is part of the reason why I bring it up, or we sort of like pose the question in this way. And I said socially constipated. I'm going to repeat that a lot because I think when people go out and fucking get big fucking swastikas on their chests and SS's on their arms and then go into a fucking mall and shoot a bunch of random people, or what happened in Buffalo, or what's happened in 8 million different places. And now, like I said, it's like a couple weeks ago, two of them happened in Serbia, that huge one in Christchurch a few years back. And then oh, that one on that Swedish island, or no, it was a Swedish island. I mean, 50 some odd kids or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
he literally went into the fucking woods and just.
But they blame that on death metal too.
Well, I mean, which is no different than what happened with
Marilyn Manson. Yeah, I know.
It's dipshitty, I mean, but the problem right now is that like Biden, for instance, right? He is 82 years old, or he will be when this election cycle is over. Like I said in the last one, you have Marianne Williamson and you have RFK Jr., who have announced their candidacy, and they have over double-digit support, and the DNC has said we are not going to have debates, and we're not going to even recognize that there's a fucking primary that needs to happen. And then you have the Trump phenomenon, sort of like, I mean, the only person that it looked like for a moment that would even have had a shot at going against him is DeSantis. And every time he opens his mouth, he just fucking changes feet. And because of the way that he tried to deal with his little last international trip, and just looked woefully incompetent in that arena, he's not helping himself any. So my point is that you're coming back around where we're funneling, the social system is funneling two candidates that nobody fucking wants. Nobody fucking wants either one of these guys. I don't care, and the only reason why they go for Biden is because they fucking don't want Trump. That's the same kind of bullshit that they were saying when Bush was coming back around for his second term. No Bush, I mean, at some point in time, you need to start putting people into a position of, or at least opening the door where we can negotiate these questions so that we feel like we're participating in it, or else what you're going to start seeing is this vigilantism playing out in some horrible, horrible ways over and over and over again, because it's clear that we have a political system that, and like, I know I always, sling poop at Brian when he goes vote, 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 but I mean, I still think we need to vote, but we need to have people that are out there that are available to us that we actually, or at least allow them to argue. Let Biden fucking argue. If he's incapable of arguing, if he's like in the same space that Dianne Feinstein is, who needs to fucking no longer be in the Senate because she doesn't have the mental capabilities of being on the fucking Judicial Committee, then he needs to go. Just like she needs to go. We can't just pretend at playing democracy. We need to at least start having some measure of real democracy functioning, or else we're going to keep having these horrible instances popping up in our face. And they're not going to be just national; they will be global, because this is a pattern that's occurring all over the place.
Well, I would hope, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, because this is supposed to be the fucking entertainment episode. I would hope that, if one of the challengers within the DNC didn't get a debate, or there wasn't a primary, that one of two things, if not both, would happen, is that they would say, you know what, fuck you, DNC. I'm a Kennedy. I've got enough money to do whatever the fuck I want anyway. So I'm going to do like Ross Perot did, and I'm just going to fund myself.
You gotta buck the system at some point in time. And you can't be afraid of the consequences.
And if that didn't happen, which again, I hope that it would, but if it didn't, then I'm hoping those dipshit, straight ticket Democratic voters would say, do you think this is really fair? I mean, I was going to vote for Kennedy, but I didn't even get a chance to. Well, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do now. I guess I'll just vote for the lesser of two evils like I always do.
You know what would be a cool thing is if you actually got like a popular enough libertarian and a popular enough green to where you would, if you could get 18 or 20% of the vote on both of those sides, you know what I'm saying? Then you don't get the electoral, that would then you're not dealing with the problem of an extra left, making it so that Democrat can't win, and an extra right making it so that a Republican can't win. You neutralize both at the same time, and you demonstrate the problem with the system writ large. I like that. We need a Ross Perot and Bernie Williams. Not Bernie Williams. He was a baseball player.
Right.
Bernie Sanders. I got a couple of his rookie cards. He's a very good baseball player. Very good center fielder. With Bernie Sanders, but a new, like RFK, like somebody who's going to take a 20% bite of the total count.
I know, but I always accuse the GOP of infiltrating the Libertarian Party and cracking it, which they did.
Yeah, with Pat Buchanan, absolutely they did.
But I think the DNC would do the same thing with the Greens or anybody else, because they don't want that to happen. Because there's also some money that's going to go to the wayside if that percentage gets too high.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really why they're in this anyway. Mm-hmm. They don't give a fuck about you or me mm-hmm. or any of the fucking crackheads that are walking up and down the path. They don't even really honestly care about the rich people, except for the fact that they donate more money to them. So I don't know.
You're right. That's why they ran Pat Buchanan, though, because it had somebody like Ross Perot run for a third time in a row, they would have hit the 5% mark, and they would have had funding from here to fucking eternity.
Right.
And that was totally the Republicans neutralizing that candidate. And the Greens have never even gotten close to 5% over and over and over again.
Dude, I say the Libertarians haven't come anywhere near 5% mm-hmm. for almost 30 fucking years now.
The Reform Party was the closest. Yeah, on any side, the Reform Party was the closest. So,
I think over the past few years, Libertarians have been able to drag about 1 3/4%.
Yeah, 1.5 is what I was. Yeah, somewhere between 1 and 2, 1.5 and 2. Yeah,
depending on the state. Yeah. Because this last election, that fucking dude in Utah ended up getting a ton of votes. I think he was. I mean, he was in double digits, but it was just a fucking state race.
That's like Denver. Denver, you're always going to get the Democrat at like 75, and then you'll get a socialist at like 19.
Right.
And then 3% for orange Cheeto head motherfucker.
Okay, so let's fucking circle back to some sort of fucking entertaining thing. Not that that wasn't
I haven't
entertaining.
seen The Unforgiven since it came out. I probably need to go back and watch that again.
Dude, it's one of my favorite fucking movies, but it's on HBO now.
Yeah, I saw
I
it.
think all of the Clint Eastwood movies are on there. Like
Huh.
all of the Dirty Harry ones, maybe not all of them, but I know Pale Rider and so Pale Rider and
What is World War II ones? He's got a couple of World War II ones too, doesn't he?
World War II ones.
Something Ridge, Heartbreak
Ridge, but that was supposed to be the Korean War.
Was it?
But he had come back, and so it was done in the 80s. I mean, like Mario Van Peebles was in it, and he had like a mohawk and an earring, and he played in a band. But Heartbreak Ridge was more about the Marines and not, because then they did the fucking, I think it was, they invaded Panama and they took that crew with them. And then he directed or produced the one with Andrew, what's his name, the Spider-Man kid. But that one was
the Sniper one.
No,
that's newer war ones, but he did American Sniper.
It was the one where they were on some fucking Pacific island trying to get rid of the Japanese. Like Vince Vaughn was in it too.
Letter from Iwo Jima. Letters from Iwo Jima. I mean, that's clearly a World War II movie.
I don't think that's the name of what I'm thinking of.
Well, then he's done a couple then, but that's the right time period. Here, let's see who's in Flags of Our Father. That's that they're pushing up the the flag and the cover of that one.
God damn it! All I remember is that this kid was from West Virginia, and he, oh yeah, that girl that was in that fucking Teresa Allen, no, Teresa something was also in it. They were from West Virginia. He became a medic, but refused to carry a weapon, so they kept trying to drum him out of the military. But he wanted to really help out because all of these people from his town had been dying in the war, and so he went over there to help and wouldn't carry a gun. He wouldn't kill anybody. And they were on this, I think it might have been called something Ridge too, because there was this huge fucking rope ladder that carried you to the top of this cliff, and then they were supposed to go in and try to clear out the Japanese. And I cannot remember the name of that fucking movie to save my life, but it doesn't have jack shit to do with vigilantes.
That's right. We get caught in some spaces sometimes.
One of the most recent Spider-Men were in it. The actor that played Spider-Man in it's Andrew something.
Garfield.
Yeah.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Okay.
That's the one that he was in.
So it's Hacksaw Ridge, and that's why. Okay, so
But Mel Gibson directed that.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. Never mind then.
Sam Worthington and all those goofy motherfuckers. Milo Gibson, one of Mel Gibson's kids, it looks like. What about V for Vendetta? That's a good vigilante movie.
Well, I was going to talk about it, but then I didn't want to hear about fucking Zizek and Day 2 again.
Well, you're going to get it no matter what, but you got to talk about V for Vendetta because it's a wonderful fucking vigilante movie. I mean, I mean, and it's exactly perfect for the way that you framed it. I mean, was it because it's not just for. I mean, he's being a vigilante for revenge, but also because he's got a greater social purpose behind what it is that he's trying to. And the way that he liberates Natalie Portman from her, because she has that ability in her, and he saw that, and he wanted her to be free.
But okay, so you said it's clearly for revenge, but is it? I mean, I would think on first glance you'd say yes. But really, all he's doing, with the exception of that one doctor who ended up being a forensic pathologist or a coroner or whatever the fuck they called her in the movie, um, all of the rest of them, he was just clearing out the fucking people at the top.
They were all part of the experiment.
I know they were all part of the experiment.
But two things can happen at the same time, right? I mean, he was clearing out the experiment, but yes, he was also cleaning out the riffraff.
Well, yeah, he was just getting rid of the people. Because I don't know. Maybe because you've made me think about everything in a different way. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing.
I can't believe that.
I'm saying that, like, seriously, like initially I thought, fuck yeah, this is great. He's getting revenge on these people. But really, all he was doing was clearing out the fucking top posted people who would have the most influence in Zizek's day two. He's starting over basically.
Yeah, which back. I mean, that's when we ask the question, "What is day two? Where is And I mean, of course, that's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is that cathartic, elimination of the opposition.
Yes, but see, I don't know with the way that they fucked him up. I mean, because they were injecting him with chemicals and doing all kinds of shit. Not to mention the fact that they basically burned him alive.
Yeah.
Um,
he's caught in the fire. Yeah.
So, for the rest of his life, he's got to wear fucking gloves and a mask and shit.
Mm-hmm. And the Guy Fawkes mask.
Right. But I don't know, like if it were me and that shit had happened to me, the revenge would have been a lot more than what he did. Like he just went in and killed them. Like I would have been pulling out fucking fingernails. I would have been putting salt in wounds. I would have fucking maybe dismembered them slowly. And
But the beauty of his activity is exactly what you said, though, because to where the revenge is okay. So to make your argument, the revenge was only secondary, and the perfect example of that is when he kills the doctor who saw him the night when he broke out and he was he was yelling with the burns all over it. And
well, he liked her for some reason.
Well, because she was a part of it, but she wasn't. She did not have the same MO as all those other individuals. When he killed her on some level, it was almost like it was how do you say it? Not a gift or a blessing, like when somebody's in pain. It's not like euthanasia, but like not in that headspace. It sort of released her from, and it was basically, you were a part of this, and I sort of made this decision about all these people that are a part of it, and you have to deal with the retribution, but I'm not going to do it in the same way that I've done it with these other people.
Well, yeah, because I mean, he tells her, "I did it a half an hour ago while you slept."
But it wasn't painful. It was real, dude. I really thought that, like, when I like the sisters, in the movies that they make. That's part of the reason why I like V for Vendetta so much. I think the way that they say that I'm an idea and an idea can't be killed. There's just something a little bit too obnoxiously Hegelian about the way that they posit that, and it just makes me want to slap him across the face.
Because an idea can be stopped,
but it can't be killed.
Yeah.
But the way that he said it was just a little bit too douchey.
Yeah. Well, I guess the right idea can't be stopped. Or well, some of the wrong ones can't either. Yeah, I mean it's one of my favorite fucking movies, and like the Wachowski siblings.
That was a very diplomatic way of saying that.
Um, the Matrix movies, obviously, I'm a huge fan of, and V for Vendetta. I just watched something that they did also. Oh, Jupiter Ascending, which I mean, it's not horrible,
It's a
but
goofy movie though. Yeah, it is a goofy fucking movie. There's
we
some good moments though. There are some good
we
moments.
should have talked about that one when we were talking about the time shit. The um, well, I guess they weren't. Well, they were kind of robbing when we were talking about the banks, and we ended up talking about in time when we did the
Yeah,
sci-fi
because
thing.
they're using entire populations as disposable and harvesting them and shit like that because
Yeah,
they're taking their life force. Yeah, I mean, that's why that movie pissed me off so bad though, because of the bees and that. There were some really cool things. It's like they were sitting around smoking weed and they came up with some really cool ideas, but couldn't string them together to make fucking sense out of it.
yeah, but I think the Wachowskis as a whole do a pretty
Pretty,
good
yeah.
job with everything that
I
they
like
do.
Sense8 a lot, so I think they again when they didn't have the kind of money to run 3 or 4 seasons, and they had to bang it all out in that second season. That was a fuck up, but
Um,
Matrix 4 was a fucking big mistake.
Huge fucking mistake. Um, but you know, Time Warner does that shit every now and then where they just say, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and push this shit through. Like everybody was so pissed off that the show Deadwood ended, and they're like, don't worry, we're gonna have a movie. We're gonna have a movie. We're gonna have a movie. So everybody's waiting. Everybody's waiting. They didn't come out with the movie until like 2 years ago. And so by the time they showed the movie, everybody was 20 fucking years older. I mean, so, and they tried to get around it by doing, but I mean, even Neo in the last Matrix, he was fucking visibly older.
Both of them, yeah. Carrie Ann Moss, yeah, totally.
So,
Doogie Howser. Why the fuck did they put Doogie Howser in that fucking movie?
um, all right, but I can't. Do you want to talk more about V for Vendetta,
I mean,
or did we?
it's so don't to cap it at least. V for Vendetta is like because we like a lot of the stuff we were doing last time was about the ambiguity of the concept of these are clear like liberatory projects. You know, one of them from Walt is to protect the neighborhood. You know, and this one these are vigilantes that you kind of have to root for on some level. The falling down guy you're not going to root for. Clint Eastwood, you're going to in the Unforgiven, you're going to root for him. You know, so I mean that maybe that's how you sort of start to distinguish these things. Is like there are vigilantes that function in a way where they're notoriously short-sighted, maybe racist, maybe ignorant, uh, and then there's other ones that aren't perfect, but they're trying to go up against power in a society that is liberatory for the bulk of people.
So were you trying to segue that on purpose, or am I misunderstanding? And when I say that, I mean because so I was thinking of the anti-hero because people, root for
No, but we
Batman
should
or
go
or
there.
the
Yeah,
Punisher
I
or
wasn't thinking about
whatever.
that, but that's a good segue there because that makes it you're complicating it again, right?
I am.
Well, the people that create these pieces of art are complicating it through the anti-hero.
Well, I don't know. I never thought it was that fucking complicated. And I mean, I don't think most kids when they were reading Punisher comic books or Batman comic books, I don't think that they were sitting there going, this is fucking weird to me. I don't think I should like this
I think
because he's not a hero.
I think you're
He's
misunderstanding
an anti-hero.
what I'm saying when I say complicating it.
Okay, what did you mean then?
We'll just go ahead and talk about your anti-heroes, and we'll get into it in that
Well,
space.
so
It's
I
not complicated in the sense that wow, this is really complicating. You see a character, you either emotionally attach to it, psychologically attached to it, academically, intellectually attached to it, or you don't.
right, but are we complicating it socially? I thought that's what you meant.
Well, yeah, but then you said like, but that doesn't mean that they're complicated. It's just their relationship to the system that they're engaging in is itself complicated.
It is. And Spider-Man fights the Punisher in a couple of them, and Spider-Man would be considered an anti-hero.
On some level, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know which one. I mean, because so obviously Batman, like I used to always fuck around and say I am Batman, and that was before, you know, Michael Keaton said it.
That was a really long time ago.
I know.
You are so prescient.
Well, that isn't why I said that, but I mean, so Batman probably is my least favorite, and I'm not even going to call him a superhero because he's not fucking super anything except rich. I mean, he knows fucking karate or martial arts or whatever, but the rest of it is his money buys him as fucking gimmicks and shit. Which, don't get me wrong, he's still pretty fucking cool, but not a superhero.
Why the Punisher then? That's your favorite, right? The Punisher's your favorite?
I don't know if I have. Probably, dude. I mean, all when I was a kid, Spider-Man was my favorite. Okay.
Spawn is another one of those kind of anti-heroes too.
He is.
Because he turns his back on hell to do what he does, right?
Well, and they did that shit. So Vertigo Comics, or Vertigo, is kind of another brand of DC, and they do all of DC's really dark shit, which is kind of fucking weird because DC's kind of dark anyway. But Spawn is a Vertigo brand.
Okay.
Vertigo. I don't know why I keep saying Vertigo. But yeah, I mean, so that dude was military. He started asking too many questions, so the people that he was working for or with tried to kill him.
Yeah.
And he ended up in hell. And he said, fuck you, I'm not gonna be here. And then ended up with some fucking badass cape and whatever. I mean, he wasn't one of my favorites. Todd McFarlane, though, fucking loved that guy.
Wow. Is he the one who wrote the Spawn stuff?
Yeah.
What else? I know that name. What else did he write?
No, I don't know.
I love that guy, but I don't know what else he wrote.
No, I didn't say I love that guy. I said he loved that guy. Spawn. Todd McFarlane loves Spawn.
Okay. Sorry.
No, that's fine. And I don't know enough about it. I've never read the graphic novel. I think I saw the movie once.
I never finished
John
the real life one.
Leguizamo plays the fat clown thing.
Who was fucking freaky.
Yeah.
I don't like clowns, especially clowns that they're from hell.
Dude, and he was freaky.
The cartoon, the original cartoon movie was pretty fucking cool though. Dustin was a psycho about that fucking show, but I really liked the cartoon movie. Was kind of cool. The first one. Sorry, carry on, my good man.
No, it's fine. I have no idea really what to talk about because you just said, "Here, why don't you go ahead and talk?"
We were jumping all over the place. So the Batman is an anti-hero though. The new Batman, because I watched that one yesterday. They tried to turn him back into a regular hero in that one. Like he's like, I got to get past my darkness. You know, I got to reinvent myself where I'm a man of the people. It was so fucking stupid because when you do that with somebody like Batman, you're undermining, like, the duality is the whole thing for him.
Well, I don't know quite how things work. Like, I think that script was based on some sort of fan fiction or something because, fans go and start writing their own thing. Well, I'd like to see this happen or this or that. And most of the time it ends up kind of
trashy.
Yeah, just fucking things up. And I don't know for sure if it was fan fiction or not. But it didn't seem right to me. And I didn't like the fucking fact that Twilight guy was in it.
Yeah, you love that. You love Robert Pattinson. Yeah.
Although he does come to Denver, like I know you don't really like fish, but GB Fish and Chips here in town, he gave them a fucking like thumbs up or some shit.
How in the fucking world do you know that Robert Pattinson gave fucking some fish and chips place a 2 thumbs up?
Because when you go to GB Fish and Chips, he's got like his fucking picture on the wall, and he's like, "I love GB Fish
Well,
and
if he
Chips."
says that and he's a fucking Brit, then they got to be pretty good fish and chips because that's where fish and chips originate.
They are really fucking good. But I would have liked it even if the fucking dipshit from the new Batman wasn't in it or wasn't going there.
What did you think about the Christopher Nolan Batmans, though?
Are you talking about the Dark Knight
Yeah.
and all those?
Uh-huh.
I thought that they were great
Mm-hmm.
because I hate the Tim Burton ones. Because
sucks.
everything was all fucking neon and had to be all fucking happy, and
He tried to comic book it a little bit too much, I think, in certain instances.
yeah, and it wasn't like dark like it was supposed to be because he made it, I don't know, like kid friendly or some shit.
The first movie that I ever took Annie and Jeannie to see was Batman Begins, and Jeannie started crying, and we had to leave. Because that shit was a fucking dark movie, dude. It was heavy, dude. She was 8. She was a little kid at the time, so it was just a little much for her.
I thought all of them were great. But Christopher Nolan, I mean, because he did the fucking, they're not called the Super Friends, whatever the fucking movie is that is like the Super Friends without the Wonder Twins.
I don't know which one that is.
Well, it's the most recent one: Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, the Flash. So it's the Super Friends without the Wonder Twins.
The Super Friends without the Wonder
Twins. He did that one.
Justice League.
Yeah. Which Justice League might be a better name for it. But see, like all of those guys, well, maybe not Aquaman.
He only produced that though. Incidentally, he didn't direct it.
Oh, okay. Well, I knew he was involved somehow. Maybe all those guys aren't considered anti-heroes, but they all do kind of the same shit. Like they never consider Superman a vigilante. But Superman isn't following the law.
No, he's above it, both figuratively and literally.
Right.
That's the thing then about like superheroes. Then generally speaking, is that they, as a rule, are vigilantes. I mean, that was the whole fucking point of the one where they were all fighting with each other in
Civil
Marvel
War.
one. Yeah, Civil War. Yeah, was the fucking what's his name became an apologist for the state, and Captain America said no.
And that's weird too, dude. Like Iron Man is just another guy, not a superhero, just a fucking rich guy. But I like Batman. I fucking hate Iron Man. And after the Civil War one, I fucking fully hated him.
Because of how much he was an apologist for the state.
That's funny. I really wanted Captain America just to keep kicking his fucking ass.
But isn't it just so fucking like stereotypically goofy that Captain America becomes the one that goes outside the law? You know, it doesn't matter who's on the antithesis, but for Captain America, the American guy, you know, to be, I'm not gonna follow the rules. Fuck you guys. I'm gonna go find my friend Bucky. Fuck you all. Screw you. I'm going home.
I'm gonna find my friend Bucky.
That's what the fucking movie was about.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it. Yeah. I just thought it was funny. Well, but he was saying, yeah, maybe he wasn't saying anything. I don't know. I didn't think that they had written it in to say Captain America saying "fuck you, America." I thought they had written it that way because Captain America was saying, by us doing what we're doing what's right for America.
Yeah, of course. But again, I don't think those two things are, you know, I mean, and yes, not just for America, but for the system at large.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Right, but he's not Captain Globe.
No, no. But see, this is where like some of the stuff, the Marvel stuff, and I kind of touched on this when we did the Marvel episode back then. So I kind of I rewatched the Falcon and the Winter Soldier one again, and all those people that disappeared during the 5 years, there were no uh, borders during that time period. People just sort of resettled because you lost half the fucking people from the globe, so there were more resources. People were settling into spaces, and then it's almost like private property disappeared, but then the other people came back, and everybody got banished back to their own spaces. Um, and I know that in that, and I know you haven't seen the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but there's these red hand people, and they're tapping into the discontent, the global discontent, the people that were forgotten after the line started to be drawn again. I think their point was really very strong, very good. I think that if your responsibility is to put your foot back on the head of all these people who were, for all intents and purposes, dispossessed before this happened, and they're not just possessed after it, but then they get redispossessed after the lines go back up, and they do kind of make a point of that, but they don't. I just think that like sometimes when you have like a Captain America figure, because these people were clearly vigilantes in a different way. Though those red hand people, I can't remember what the fuck their name is. I'll find it in a minute when I'm not yammering so much. But they were definitely speaking on behalf of a group of people, and they were acting above the law. And again, very, very like reasonable and legitimate positions. But the Winter Soldier and fucking the Falcon were still,
Is that the Disney show?
yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, I
No,
haven't seen it.
they tried to create a new Captain America because Captain America died, right? Because he got old after um the End Game or whatever it was. And they pick up a white, blonde haired, blue eyed guy to do it instead of letting Falcon do it, which of course is again like that's half of the discussion in the stupid fucking movie or stupid show. Um, but notwithstanding that goofiness, um, they should have played into this. Those other people shouldn't have been anti. They should their plight should have been understood a little bit better by your regular heroes too.
Well, so now you make me ask a question, and because at the end of, was it Infinity Wars or the one right before it? Anyway, Thanos, who's supposed to be the bad guy, gets all of the fucking Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
And snaps his fucking fingers, and 50% of the population goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, right? I thought it was fucking brilliant because, I mean, seriously, um, talk about having resources back and being able to essentially start over. So now I'm pretty sure I know what that makes me, since I thought what Thanos was doing was a good thing.
You mean you're evil?
But
you're evil, Brian?
I don't think I'm evil. But is Thanos a hero or an anti-hero or a vigilante?
Well, I think that the question's important, and I mean that's what makes him compelling. Now, obviously, what they try to point out is that his how he does what he does is where the problem is, right? Like they don't like the thought of just having a person snap fingers and have even though his argument is correct.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, so much so that if we continue down the path that we're going down, we will have an S-curve solution that creates itself where it's going to be a lot less than half of us left when it's all said and done.
Well, and it won't be, the S curve won't be pretty, because I don't know for sure, but in the 80s, all those little Ethiopian kids that were starving, where they had all the fucking commercials for them.
I thought you were going to say had flies on their face.
Well, and they
People
did
always
have
talk about the
flies on their eyes and shit. But all of those kids, and not just Ethiopia, but different places in Africa or third world countries in general, where there are starving people because of lack of water, arable land, whatever the case is. I don't think that starving to death is going to be fun for anybody, and we're coming real fucking close to that.
Yeah, we're definitely. I mean, and I don't think this is
entertaining.
Or there's no debate. There's no debatableness to this. Like, if you really believe that, if you believe that one of two things are true, namely that resources are going to be available to us forever, or that that we're about to have the second coming of Jesus, and he's going to open up the skies and bring all the worthy people up to heaven and send all the other ones down to hell, then I would posit that whole story about the faith guy, that he talks to God, and God's, there's going to be a flood, but I'm going to save your ass in this flood, and the flood comes in, and he's hanging onto that root on the edge of it, and this person comes by and says, let me help, God's going to come and save me, and then the person goes by it, blah 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 blah, and then after the third one, the guy finally fucking drowns and dies, and he's up fucking St. Peter's gates, and he's like, God, what the fuck, dude? You told me you were gonna save me. He said, I sent 3 motherfuckers on rafts to get you, bitch.
I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. I sent you some other shit, dumb fuck.
So, like, people, you can say the God thing, but you better at least damn well understand that you have to make intelligent decisions. You can't just keep making stupid fucking decisions until you burn.
They can, dude. That's what the entire footprints thing is about.
The footprints thing?
Yeah, dude, where the guy's looking down the beach and he's sitting there.
This is when Jesus carried me.
Well, no, well, how come I only see one set of footprints? Well, that's because I was carrying you when you were having a hard life.
They don't really say the hard life part, but it's
something along those.
I know. I've seen the stupid Jesus things. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. I think that if he were here in this moment and somebody kept making those comments, I think he'd be fucking bitch slapping their asses, saying, be smart next time, motherfuckers. Use your fucking heads. I gave you a brain. Use it. Come up with solutions. Do it together. That's the truth. Like, if you want to survive, you got to put your heads together and come up with solutions. That's the real test, right? I mean, if the dude was here saying something to you, that's, I think, honestly, and of course, I know it's total fucking like sacrilege for me to speak on behalf of fucking Jesus, but I think that's what he'd say.
Yeah, you're a sacrilegious son of a bitch. All right, so we're coming up on an hour and 18 minutes. Should we wrap up this one and do another, like, half or whatever?
Well, we're gonna do a full. I mean, we're yammering easy right now. So.
Well, no, I mean the other half.
Oh, the other half. Yeah, not a half,
right.
Just a full half. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, 720-334-ROLL.
shortbusdebateclub at yahoo.com. We'll talk to you soon.
To be continued.